a situation where you find that they must look at the situation.
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
Welcome back to the program. Thank you very much for staying with us. Time to take a look at some of the front pages of select national dailies this morning to bring you up to speed with some of the stories making the rounds as we unpack them on our review segment. And we always like to start with the Daily Trust newspaper. So let's take a look at the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper for today, September 19, 2023. Tinubu appoints, and we start on the home front, Tinubu appoints 3 Daily Trust columnists, Baba Ahmed, 14 others as aides for Shettima. So, yeah, more aides, more advisors in the presidency, it appears. And, yeah, okay, good one. I guess by association, these individuals have proven, their worth. But in other appointments, you are favoring Yoruba Christians. Murik Knox president. There we go once again. Page 5 has all of the details. Someone would say, how do you square this with the concerns that some Nigerians had during the campaigns about the president being a Muslim and his vice president also being a Muslim? So it's a very tricky conversation as far as identity politics is concerned. Forex unification, subsidy removal, difficult decisions for Nigeria's prosperity, according to the United States. I would say that the United States actually has a lot more on its plate, so perhaps maybe focus on that. But if you want to hear the thoughts of the world power, go to page 8 on the Daily Trust newspaper to find out more. But the big story on the front page talks about NNPCL, 12 others failed to remit $9.85 billion in 1 year. This is according to NATI. And some of the writers says NNPCL queried over misappropriation of $55 million NLNG dividend. And NCDBM or MB says National Assembly must recover funds. And Kyari says we are for transparency and accountability. And it's safe to say that many Nigerians don't really think that that statement is 100% accurate. Else, we wouldn't even have this kind of headline to begin with. Page 4 has all the details. And you talk about the Abuja demolitions. This is a picture there from Area 1 shopping complex in Garki. And you have officials of the Federal Capital Territory Administration demolishing illegal structures in the FCT. Subsidy, federal government, NLC meeting deadlocked. Tribunal, Kano governor, APC to no fate tomorrow. Tinubu advocates consensus on funds spent by finance institutions in Africa. And this is what he's going to speak largely on at the United Nations General Assembly, his first appearance. Many farmers killed as bandits attack 7 villages at Kebbi, Sokoto border. Another disturbing picture of how difficult it is to be a farmer in today's Nigeria. Well, these are some of the stories you can follow up on the pages of the Daily Trust newspaper for today.
All right, let's move on to People's Daily, where we have the lead story saying MSF urges global action against diphtheria outbreak in Nigeria. 700 patients being treated and 280 admitted weekly. Another writer says women, children are the 5 most vulnerable. Then 4,000 suspected cases recorded in August. And the last writer is saying as a federal government develops policy on patient safety. You can get details of this when you read further different pages there. Just take a look at them and get more details. And then above the lead story, we have something on NLNG. Transition into gas can reduce emissions by 48%. And we also have Tinubu appoints Baba Ahmed Fasao, 16 other aides for Vice President Kashim Shettima. And Baba Hakim is saying something. He's saying this is no time for fence sitting. Get more details in the People's Daily this morning. Then there's a pictorial just below the lead story of some service chiefs there, some of them with the governor of Katsina, Dikora there. You can get more details why they visited. And then the bottom strip, we have stories like women beg a court to grant her husband's divorce prayer. Page 7 has details of that. And the federal government allays fares, says Lagos doorman long flyover safe. Page 6 has details of that story. Then NCC opens applications for 2023 talent hunt research through hackathon. I think Abdul, you should think about joining this. And I
love going to hackathons. You get to see so many innovations and ideas. Yeah,
very interesting event, if you ask me. Then Tinubu urged to consider other tribes for appointments. All right. Page 8 has more of that. And the last one will be taken this morning, an official saying that government to power Ondo public hospitals with solar energy. Good development there. And that's much of the story we're taking.
I'm still stuck on the other tribes. Who are the other tribes?
Yes, of course. I think that's the other way of saying what appeared in the front page of the... Maybe Muri making the statement there, but you get all the details when you read the People's Daily this morning.
Identity politics. Finally, we take a look at the front page of the Business Day newspaper for today. There isn't much to go around, but let's take a look at it anyway. Bonus for shareholders as banks post bumper profits. One of these days, I wish they would say bonus for customers. But shareholders are the ones putting their money in the company and running it. So they get, an even bigger piece whenever the company succeeds. Amcon recovers 70% of bad debt. So that's good news, right? The writer says, sells Nigeria Eagles certification process as expiry days nears. South Africa, Nigeria's strained relations rob continent of economic gains. Yeah, at some point we were big brother to South Africa, but right now I think that the egos of the two countries are really, going head to head. I think as Nigerians, we feel like we're the big brother of Africa, but then again, you look at South Africa, you look at how well they're doing in terms of... But if
you've really taken note of South Africa and the Nigerian relationship, there's this... this cohesion all the time.
It's like
football, business,
it's like a frenemy situationship. It's a situationship. I don't think the relationship has been robust for quite some time.
Yes.
Owando swings to 32.9 billion naira profit for 2021. Okay, and finally, the bottom strip: stable naira, fiscal policy rejig key to woo U.S. investment, according to Adeyomo. All right, time now to unpack it. Let's bring in our newspaper reviewer, our very own Dr. Theophilus Abba is joining us this morning. Doc, thank you very much for coming on the program. It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hope the week has started on a very good note.
Well, I don't know.
Perhaps it started on a good note for Doctor,
right?
And some of us in the
studio. A good note when you have to drive to the petrol station and...
Okay. Nigeria is happening to Doctor too.
I was going to say that, you never start on a good note when you have to fuel your car and then you get there and you're doling thousands of naira.
Every second that you are pressing your throttle, you're actually burning naira.
I would say that the hard times has done one positive thing for Nigerians, and that's we're financially conscious of everything we do now, spending our money at any point in time. True. But anyway, let's get right to the headlines. The first one, bombshell, but also not so surprising. NNPCL, 12 others have failed to remit $9.8 billion in just 1 year, according to NITE.
Well, it's quite interesting that NITE is telling us that because one of the objectives, functions of NITE is to ensure that every revenue that is meant for the federal government is recovered. That means that NITE should have that part to say, okay, this money we didn't get, we must get it. But as of today, what NITE is doing is telling us, this is not the first time. If you have been following the activities of NITE over there, they will tell us, oh, this money was not remitted. But my question is this: why is it that NITE does not have the power to compel NNPCL? To return this money.
Do you think they should be given power?
No, they have. If you look at the act that set up NITE, they say, look, every fund that is accrues to the federal government, NITE must ensure that they are remitted. The same manner, whatsoever the fragment needs to remit to agents of government, statutory remittance, it must be done. One of the objectives of this, apart from issue of transparency and accountability and all this and all that. Now, secondly, my worry is that, you see, NATI is becoming like an auditing firm. Now, even if you are doing auditing, you know, NATI ought to go to NNPC and say, well, this $9.something billion, you didn't remit. What happened? NNPC ought to explain. You see, but if you look at what has happened, it's clear that either NNPC was asked to explain or to remit the money, NNPC did not remit, or that NATI did not do that second leg of the job. You know, because in research, in investigation, in auditing, you know, it's not enough to discover, you know, what has gone wrong. You need to tell us, what is NNPC saying about this? You understand? Now, if you read the story, NNPC man is saying, we are for transparency and accountability, blah, blah, blah. Now, you see, he didn't address this issue of missing $9.something billion. You understand? He didn't address it. He said, oh, we are for accountability, we are for this and that. And so I'm asking, you know, if this is not the first time NATI is coming up with something like this, how can NATI tell us? You know, the ones they discovered in 2017, 2018, 2019, what has happened? These funds, have they been recovered? You know, we need to find out.
You're saying it's not enough to sound the alarm. There's some action.
We need more explanation. What exactly is being done to recover this money? Because one of the terms and one of the functions of NATI is to ensure, if you read the act, to ensure that these funds are recovered.
Now, when you look at the flip side, Doctor, NNPCL has been in the news for a lot of reasons, especially for not remitting. And it seems like there's something happening that a lot of Nigerians do not know about. Some people have attributed it to there's some sort of impunity when it comes to NNPCL. Now, who should we be blaming? NATI that is bringing out this data or is trying to make sure that NNPCL comes clean, or the people who are responsible for enforcing that NNPCL remits this money yearly as they should?
Now, the issue is that I'm not saying that we should blame NATI for raising the alarm. I'm saying that, you see, every investigation, in every investigation that you conduct, you know, you must talk to the other side to explain. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. This money is missing. Explain. You understand? So when the NNPC representative spoke, I expect him to say, okay, this money, he says, is missing. Well, this is what happened. This is why we have the figures are not reconciled or whatsoever. But we don't see that. You know, we don't see that. Now, this aligns with what happens when we get the Auditor General's report every year. Auditor General's report to tell us, oh, we discovered that this was not done, that was not done, this money was not accounted for, there were no receipts for this, there were no receipts for that. Now, but we don't hear what those agencies of government, how they react to such discoveries. Because in the investigation, you must find out the other side, what happened. You know, because if the NNPC is not used to remitting some amount of money, then over the years, what are put in place? You know, say, okay, in 2018 they didn't do this, and these were the reasons. We must prevent those things from being another reason for 2021. So if you, that's what I'm talking about. Because, you know, we get sad when we hear that $9.something billion,
that's a lot of money.
It's not accounted for. It's not remitted. You know, we are not happy. But then, what's going to happen? Is that how it's going to end? Is that the end of the story? How are we going to recover this money?
Okay. In the report, NATI is asking for collaboration with EFCC, NDDC to help facilitate the transparency and accountability in those areas. But it is also saying that NNPC has largely failed to meet certain standards as far as its expenditure is concerned, because there's also the part where 55 million was misappropriated for the NLNG dividend. But, you know, just a snapshot before we move on to some other stories, right? This is not the first time. Like I said, a lot of people who are following the news will not be surprised by this one. This is not the biggest bombshell we've had from NITI with regards to non-remittance. Yes. In fact, we've heard sometime for years the NNPCL has not been remitting any money to the Federation account. Even the FAC alluded to it in response to this particular report. Why has this become sort of a normal situation within the government circle? I think why doesn't this get anybody sacked, anybody jailed, or anybody
I think
interrogated?
The problem is that the National Assembly has not been doing its job. You know, it has oversight functions. You know, you have the committee that is, in charge of oil and gas. The committee should have it has oversight over NNPC. You understand? Now, if the AT does not have the powers, or maybe the instruments to compel NNPC to make these remittances, the National Assembly has. You know, the committees, they have powers. Now, just like what I mentioned about the condition that NATO has found itself being like a toothless bulldog. It's the same thing. If you go to the Auditor General's report, because I've read it again and again, and when you read it, you just feel like shedding tears. Now, the Public Accounts Department or Committee of the National Assembly is supposed to ensure that those things, those infractions that the Auditor General, has discovered, are dealt with. But we discovered that it doesn't happen. At times, if you read the 2020 report and you are reading the 2021 report, it's almost the same thing. Oh, this money was released, the project was not there properly done, we went there, we asked questions, no receipts were given, this was not done, and then that's the end of the story. And that's why the fund, the company, the country's money is wasted every year.
The House of Representatives Committee, while being presented the report, said they're going to look into it and they're going to dig deeper to understand what is yeah, that's the hope. But back to the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper. On the subsidy front, the federal government gave organized labor, the NLC particularly, a formal letter of invitation so that they can convene a meeting, negotiate before the deadline expires for a total and indefinite strike action. After everything was said and done, after 3 hours of meeting, impasse yet again, no resolution. What is your take on what NLC is trying to get from the federal government and what the federal government is trying to do to negotiate a better deal for Nigerians?
Well, it's good that at least the federal government and NLC have started talking. You know, when
have resumed talking.
Yes, resumed actually. But the fact is that now that they are talking, it means that we have hope, that something will be done. I think the Minister of Labour was saying that there were issues that NLC raised which have not been addressed. They are still going to look at those issues. And we expect that this thing should be done speedily. You understand? Because Nigerians are like orphans right now. We've been abandoned. You remove the subsidy, unify the forex windows, and now people are just suffering. They are just suffering. You see, if you look at the way money, disappears from our pockets these days, you can't cope. You cannot cope. I get to a filling station. Somebody is buying fuel of 1,000 naira. You drive a big car. He's buying fuel of 1,000 naira. Someone will say, okay, give me 2 liters. 2 liters, 1,002, and you just drive to the desktop. So you see, it's not the price of everything has gone up, and it's not like what we get, the income is increased in any way. You understand? So the government may be making some gains, let me put it that way, by removing subsidy, but then there has to be a way of redistributing this money. I'm not saying that you give us cash. There has to be a way, of saying, okay, we know that these are the areas that the pressure is so much. Let's see how we can augment it.
Address there must be inflation, a measure, all the other economic
yes, there must be something must be done to cushion the effect. Like the other speaker said, there's no poverty alleviation. Yes, there's no alleviation, but it can cushion the effect of what we are facing. We are facing at the moment. Because it's not funny. You see, people can't. Some people go to work, they won't go home. They just let me sleep in the office.
Okay.
Because I can't. I can't afford the money to go.
The story,
I don't have to leave.
The stories are quite touching and difficult to hear. But finally, before we go, I think we just have a minute to spare. The tribunal, Kano is coming up tomorrow. And before the week runs out, or probably next week, we're going to hear more from the tribunal on the governorship election. With regards to Kano, we know how high the temperature has been for quite some time. In fact, last week the governor had to sack a commissioner and a special advisor for making unguarded utterances. What is your expectation with regards to delivering that judgment in Kano, and what needs to be done to make sure that things don't boil over?
Okay, my own thoughts are this. You see, the judges are on trial because the people know those who won the elections. The people know.
Do they?
They know those who won the elections.
There are some who say we won.
The people know.
And that's
so
all
if the judges make the wrong pronouncements, you know, they enter into the wrong books of the people, to the bad books of the people. Because Nigerians know those they voted for. They know those who won the election. So if you use technicalities, you use all sorts of, I don't know, legal language, you know, to falsify, they know that, look, what you have done is wrong. So you're actually judging yourself by that kind of judgment. So I'm feeling that the ball is in the court of judges. They should do the right thing.
Okay.
Right.
Doc, as always, good to hear your thoughts. Thank you very much for the analysis.
Thank you. I wish we had more time, though, to unpack some of the stories. There's a lot making the rounds this morning.
Definitely.
But yes, thank you very much for always sharing your thought with us on the newspaper headlines and what's happening in the national dailies. And that's how we close the curtains on this edition of Daybreak on Trust Television. We wish we have more time for us to keep talking and unraveling some of the mysteries that you might be wondering is happening in Nigeria. But this is how we say it close. My name is Mardia Umar. For any of the segments you've missed on the Daybreak this morning, don't forget that you can go back to our social media platforms, especially on YouTube, and you can watch, drop your comments there, and we'll take it up from there. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. My name is Mardia Umar.
My name is Abdullah. Thank you very much for your time and company. Do have a lovely day.